So there could be a chance where you might want to do pen testing from a Windows machine. And honestly, this idea sounds so terrible because we are so much used to doing these things from Kali Linux or Parrot OS. And now suddenly this Windows, it's like a totally different world out there. We are completely lacking in the tools and techniques that we are so much used to. And the reason why we would be needing to do this is the engagement could require that to check if somebody does get a foothold into the network and it is on a Windows host. From there, what an attacker can do, can he do a lateral movement to some other machines? What is the attacker's visibility from that Windows machine into the network, and whatever is available on that machine natively as it comes out of the box from Windows, can those tools be used or rather abused to do some further damage? All these things can be tested if the foothold is from Windows machine, and that's pretty much what we are trying to do. So in this video, we'll try using Windows machine as an attacker machine, and we'll download some tools over there, and we'll see what all things can be done. So there could be a couple of ways. One is using external tools that are not part of Windows 10 as such, and then in future videos we'll be using the native tools that the Windows comes with. So it's going to be really interesting. Let's get started. Before that, this lab, I have just added one Windows 10 virtual machine. You can see here, I'm just calling it Windows 10 Attacker, and it's created from Windows 10 Enterprise Evaluation Edition. You can download the ISO from the Evaluation Center from Microsoft, and just install it. It's pretty much next type of installation. Once it is done, all you need to do is bring it onto the Active Directory network by adding the same adapter that the lab is using, right? And once you do that, then start the machine, set up a static IP which is in the range of the lab. So the range of this lab is 56 subnet. So whichever is yours, just bring it in that lab. So set some static IP, and then the machine will be able to communicate with the other machines on the network. So here we are. This is the repository for inveigh. There is a source code for the C# executable as well as the PowerShell script. And you can go to the releases section over here. You can see releases, and there are quite a few over there. You can download the exe and you can use it, or you can sync the repository, and then you can also get the latest as and when the repository is updated. So we are going to use the PowerShell script in this video, and basically all these protocols you can use. You can sniff, you can poison the traffic, and ultimately it's NBTNS or LLMNR sort of attacks are the ones that we are going to achieve through this tool. There are quite a few options. You can see when you get the help, you can find a lot of different switches that can change the behavior of this tool. And let's go ahead and start using it. Okay, so I'm starting my PowerShell as administrator. And let me go over to the directory where I have synced the tool, which is inveigh out here. You can see this is the repository, and the first thing I'll do is I'll set the execution policy to bypass, so I wouldn't have any problems. And then I can import the module, which is my inveigh.ps1. So now I have the module loaded, and if I want to get any help on the inveigh command, I can do that. So let's say get command invoke inveigh, and let's say I want to know what all different parameters it expects, and you can see all these different parameters. So it's pretty rich. These are all the different parameters that you can tweak and you can change the behavior. So when you want to run this, the execution part is pretty straightforward. I can just say invoke and inveigh, and let's say we want to run it and we want to see the console output. So I would just say console output y, and it will give me the output. However, I wouldn't run it just yet because I have a bunch of adapters in this machine, and if I run it at this stage, it will probably use the one that I don't want it to use. So it will go ahead and start poisoning my, the main network traffic, which I don't want it to have, which I don't want it to do. So let's go ahead and find out what is the current IP of my machine that is on the network, which is my lab network. Okay, so let's say get net IP address, and I would select the IP address, also maybe interface alias, and this is what we have. So out of this particular IP is the one that is connected to the AD network. So let's go ahead and use it. So invoke inveigh, and I would give it the IP as 192.168.56.198, and I would like it to store all my or rather I would like it to output the findings on the console. So console output is yes, and let's start. So you can see all these settings are enabled, ADI, DNS, LLMNR. So wherever you see enabled, these are all the settings which are enabled currently, and we are using the IP which is the one for the AD network. So depending upon how noisy the lab is, we might have to wait that much time. So this is a pretty silent lab. It's nothing much is happening right now. So you might have to wait a short while to see something happening. So I'll just pause the video and I'll come back when I see some output. All right, so we can see some output now that it has captured, and we also can see something funny. We have the NTLM hash for Rob Stark, the user, which is cool. We can take this and we can crack it, or we can attempt to crack it. And these are all the different IPs we have captured as part of the host discovery. This will be a valuable information. So we can see .11 coming up again. And yeah, I mean, if you keep it running for some time, you will find some good amount of info on the lab. And that's pretty much what inveigh tool is there for, to sniff the traffic, to poison the traffic and get some information. So the other thing we need to know is how do we stop it. So even if you do Control C, you might have to invoke something called as stop inveigh if you want to run it again with some different parameters. So for example, we had run it earlier just with this. What if you want to save this thing to file also? So we just say file output also y, and now it will run. But before you run this command again, you need to have to execute stop inveigh, and then you can run it again with different parameters. So other thing is how do I disable or enable certain protocols? So for example, let's see here, we have HTTP capture is enabled, and what if I want to disable it? So I would just go ahead and say HTTP, and I would say N. I believe it needs a dash. Let's see. So dash HTTP and then N. And right now, if I don't specify that, you can see HTTP capture was enabled. And oh, see the same mistake I did. I didn't stop it earlier. So let me stop and then again start. And this time let's give HTTP as N. And now let me just Control C this, otherwise it will keep scrolling a lot. You can see here the HTTP capture is disabled. So this is how you can disable certain protocols, and you can capture the traffic. So that's all for today in this video, and I hope you liked it. I'll see you in the next one.